everyone. I'm Charlie Tolhurst. Welcome to Charlie Tolhurst Show for today, the 18th of February, live on YouTube. Can I say, guys, we've got a big show to get through tonight. I'm joined by late participal stat change around all the latest news. Hello, Zach.
Hello, Charlie. Hello, mate.
Right. Well, we're going to start off with the latest news now from the hot. We're going to start with the hot headlines, all the latest news and discussions. I'm going to talk first of all tonight about the resignation of Nicola Sturgeon as the First Minister of Scotland, who has been in power for longer than you'd already think of. Yes, she used to serve as a Deputy First Minister to Alex Salmond, who is also now the leader of the Alb Party, who will be certainly wanting a future run again as First Minister. But Nicola Sturgeon's time comes to a tumultuous end after many years in office, in which has seen turmoils surrounding children wearing face masks, Scottish independence obviously being the main factor. But the one that probably led to her downfall the most was the this gender bill that has been gender reform bill being passed through Scottish Parliament. Apparently, regarding a trans woman going to a women's prison. That is what was announced the other day. It is all a bit cringy, if you ask me. Very cringy. It doesn't make sense, to be honest. And yeah, she has now resigned. And yeah, Zach, it wasn't exactly a plain sailing ending for Nicola Sturgeon, wasn't it?
Well, no, it really wasn't, to be fair, actually. It really wasn't a plain sailing one. And I have to say, it did come out a little bit of surprise to me, I must say. She had this little bit of a downfall, a very small one. She had this rough period. But for so many years that she's been the face of Scotland in many ways. She's been there since she was deputy to Alex Salmond, as you said, back when he was elected as First Minister and the SNP leader as well. She's been there all along. And yeah, it's come to a dramatic end, really, to be fair as well. No one really saw this coming. But she's been the face of many things. She's been the face of the SNP. She's been the face of the independence movement for a very long time. And she's just been the face of Scottish government, really. I mean, whatever you thought about her, she's been a formidable politician. Well, no matter what your opinions are on her, whether you thought she was good, she was bad, you hated her, you liked her, you just absolutely loved her. She's been, I have to say, one of the most effective communicators across the whole United Kingdom. And her miss is going to be really felt in Scotland by those that really admired her. But I suppose in many ways as well, it's a celebration for those that really don't miss her as well. I mean, they're going to really, want to move on and everything like that as well. It's going to be a celebration for them. But there's so many legacies that she's gone out with. She's gone out with the fact that she's uprised the independence movement, although she's failed to achieve it in many ways as well. Because her dream was, before she goes off into sunset, was to get independence. She hasn't done that, but she has increased the movement in many ways as well on that. She's survived so many general elections. She's gone through like a couple of Scottish Parliament elections, a couple of general elections where she lost seats in the general election, then gained them, and then regained them in the Scottish Parliament as well. So she had a firm grip on, on Scotland. She also went through COVID, and her response to COVID actually was pretty strong compared to the likes of Boris Johnson at the time. Whatever you thought of him, and whatever you thought of Nicola Sturgeon at the time, many people thought her response was pretty strong. She also, she's also got reputation. The education's in Scotland's in a bit of a tatters. Drug deaths are also up as well. The union is still in dispute, and I suppose as well, what I think really, took her downfall was the way that she sort of handled the issue of this trans woman in a women's prison. I don't think it was, to me, like the gender recognition bill that sort of took her down. Yes, it was unpopular, but it also, there's a big difference you have to understand here. It had widespread support. It had actually cross-party support, in the Scottish Parliament. So it was always going to get passed, even if there was some slight rebellion within, the SNP ranks. But it got all of pretty much Labour's support. It got all of the Lib Dem support. It pretty much got all of the Greens support. There was someone actually in the Conservative Party that supported it as well, if I remember. So it was actually very popular in the Scottish Parliament. It was less so, in the general public. I think the problem with this, right, is that the idea that you put basically a biological man in a woman's prison really doesn't stick very well. And I guess the fact that Nicola Sturgeon really struggled to, get the sort of, why is this person in a woman's prison sort of thing, sort of really set her back. And I guess she got a lot of complaints for that. Now, she claimed the reason for leaving was the fact that she ran out of the tank. That she just basically had enough. She basically, in many ways, did what some say Jacinda Ardern did in New Zealand, and just, she hasn't got enough fuel. She's decided, I'm going to rest. I'm going to calm it down and rest here a little bit as well. But in many ways as well, I think there's probably other reasons behind her resignation in this. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was as well. I mean, there must be more to this than what we're actually being seen in many ways as well. But what this causes now, I think, Charlie, is these huge implications. First of all, I read this from sources throughout the week. The Labour Party are especially pleased about this resignation because they are running high in the polls at the moment, and they feel like without Nicola Sturgeon, the brand, the SNP brand, won't be able to fulfil itself. There will be no good, effective communicator within the SNP to be able to, drag the party forward to its independence movement. And there will be divisions on this as well. They're going to be division on independence, division on how the party can move forward, division on who's going to be next leader. Because Nicola Sturgeon was such a household name in Scotland, the other candidates in the SNP are not very well known. Nobody really hears about them a lot.
You got a list here: Kate Forbes, Finance Secretary. You've got Hasma Youssef, the Health Secretary. John Swinney, who I will not be standing. That has been announced. He's pulled out of the race. He is Deputy First Minister. And Ash Regan is the only attendant who is giving a signal running. There is a new leadership contest for the SNP, which will be decided.
Yeah, as well. So my connection was a little bit wobbly then, but I knew what you were about to say then. So there will be an SNP leadership election, Charlie, coming up to the end of the March as well. So let me just confirm the dates as well. So the process is going to begin. Every SNP member, per the 15th of February, will be eligible to vote. As well, the nominations will be opened on 2 days ago and will close on the 24th of February. Those nominations will then be put forward as options a ballot of party members, which will open on the 13th of March and close at noon on the 27th of March, with the result announced on the same day by SNP's National Secretary. As well, I mean, it's a shorter than planned timetable. In many ways, it's a little bit speed up process. To get all the nominations, you will need at least 100 members from these 20 branches as well. And whoever is going to be the next SNP leader is going to have to follow a big path in many ways, because in front of Nicola Sturgeon. So, as you know, there are those who have declined to run. We know that, like John Sweeney and Stephen Flynn, Joanna Cherry is not running for the SNP leadership. Ash Regan is expected to declare to run. Now, she was one of those in the SNP that voted against the gender recognition bill, as I remember, as well. Humza Yousaf will be expected to run as well. Now, I'm not sure he's probably one of the strongest ones as well, but there are a few that do expect to run potentially as well. Keith Brown is deputy leader. He may run. Kate Forbes. Now, she's a controversial one because she has actually, I think, Catholic. She's actually Catholic. And obviously Catholics are more anti-abortionists, she voted against same-sex marriage as well. So she could be a controversial one in many ways as well, I think, if she does get the nomination. or does join the leadership race. Now, I'm not sure whether it could be aligned to basically what the Liberal Democrats did and voted Tim Farron in as their next leader, and he had a bit of religious views as well. Neil Gray could stand as well. Marley McAllen, possible. And potentially another one who could get into the name, Angus Robertson. Now, you remember he used to be a former MP in Westminster, but he was also back in the Scottish Parliament as of this year as well. It'll be interesting to see what happens as well. But there's a lot of don't knows in this race. But honestly, it's a huge battle, I think, for the SNP now, because although the party has been asked not to get place about this, Labour are probably licking their lips, seeing this all play out. They're currently leading the polls at the moment. In Scotland, before Nicola Sturgeon resigned, there was a poll that's showing them only 2 points behind the SNP in the polls. Now, given the fact that Nicola Sturgeon now has resigned, it'll be very interesting to see whether this poll is going to show them with a lead of something, even if it's not much. But nevertheless, as well, this is an opportunity for Labour, regardless of what you think of them, to gain some ground in Scotland in the future as well. But yeah, big news out of Scotland this week. Obviously, Nicola Sturgeon resigning, and what's next for the SNP? Who knows?
Plenty of changes coming, and we're going to play for you a short excerpt from Nicola Sturgeon's resignation speech as the First Minister of Scotland. In this speech, she goes over how she served the country during her tenure. Have a listen to this.
I am announcing my intention to step down as First Minister and leader of my party. If this was just a question of my ability or my resilience to get through the latest period of pressure, I wouldn't be standing here today, but it's not. This decision comes from a deeper and longer term assessment. I know it might seem sudden, but I have been wrestling with it, albeit with oscillating levels of intensity for some weeks. Essentially, I've been trying to answer two questions. Is carrying on right for me? And more importantly, is me carrying on right for the country, for my party, and for the independence cause I have devoted my life to? I'm not expecting violins here, but I am a human being as well as a politician. Giving absolutely everything of yourself to this job is the only way to do it. The country deserves nothing less. But in truth, that can only be done by anyone for so long. Individual polls come and go, but I am firmly of the view that there is now majority support for independence in Scotland. But that support needs to be solidified, and it needs to grow further. Our independent Scotland is to have the best possible foundation. To achieve that, we must reach across the divide in Scottish politics. And my judgment now is that a new leader will be better able to do this. Someone about whom the mind of almost everyone in the country is not already made up, for better or worse. Someone who is not subject to quite the same polarised opinions, fair or unfair, as I now am.
Thank you there to Nicola Sturgeon, who will be for that speech there. She is now resigning as the First Minister of Scotland in due course. She will be standing down as a leader of the Scottish National Party very, very soon. Moving on now to some news that I'm going to be covering over from the United States now. We're going to talk about the Republican race for the presidential nomination to take on Joe Biden, potentially Joe Biden or potentially another candidate at the 2024 election. Now, we do know for full well, for what we're hearing, that Donald Trump will be standing to take on Joe Biden in the next election. That's if Biden doesn't resign. Also, as well, there is going to be more news regarding Nikki Haley, who is apparently opened herself up to challenge her former one-time boss, Donald Trump, to a presidential nomination. Yes, Nikki Haley is, of course, the governor or former South Carolina governor as well, believe it or not. So there is a lot of stick. We know Ron DeSantis is also up in the air, the Florida governor, whether he's going to run yet. Zach, it's very interesting to see who the candidates for this race are going to be, because it looks very interesting at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, at the moment, it doesn't seem like that exciting. I thought at first it'd probably be the most least exciting race to come, nominations, all that sort of thing. Well, I could be a little bit wrong in that department. But nevertheless, it looks like, as you said, from what we know that Donald Trump is running. We now know that Nikki Haley is going to be running. Now, Nikki Haley used to be the former South Carolina governor. She also used to be on the US, used to be the US UN ambassador to the US as well, from January 2017 to December 2018 as well. But yeah, she ran South Carolina, the governor there as well. She's the first Indian American as well, sort of native as well. So she's a family of immigrants in many ways as well. But she's come from a very conservative background as well. She's been a bit of a flip flopper as well. She said that if that Trump runs, she wouldn't run, but now she is running. Her policies are very conservative as well. In many ways, she's been a supporter of Israel. She's very strict on LGBT on voter ID laws as well. So yeah, I expect. Obviously, she's now running. She wants to sort of be younger. She's in a sort of message that she gave in a rally on her first rally. She said that she wants a new generation of Republicans to sort of take over and bring conservatism back to America in many ways as well. But I struggle to see. I struggle to see how much she can actually do, because Nikki Haley is, I suppose, is a more moderate name in the party, but still very conservative. But I still struggle to see where she's going to get all the supports from. Most of the base is still with Donald Trump. Most of the Donald Trump supporters who did support him but now support someone else are only probably going to go to Ron DeSantis. So that leaves, where does Nikki Haley go on there? Now Nikki Haley, I should point out, has also already been endorsed by a Freedom Caucus member, Ralph Norman, who's the U.S. representative House member, from actually South Carolina's 5th congressional district. Now, very conservative. Obviously, he's part of the House Freedom Caucus as well. And he was actually in a group that originally opposed Kevin McCarthy's speakership, but actually then eventually went on to support him as well. Now, Haley has also said, I should point out as well, that she supports mandatory mental competence tests for politicians over 75-year-old. Does that include Donald Trump, for example, and even Joe Biden for that case? Will be, Nikki Haley supporting a cognitive test, for Donald Trump is interesting as well. But yeah, I don't know where she's going to find the support from as well. But we know that DeSantis is probably going to run. We know he hasn't declared yet. We might get Mike Pence running. We might get a few others running. Who knows? But at this stage, it feels like a small field at the moment. Pompeo, the former Secretary of State, might run. The field is small so far, but most of the base are around either Trump or DeSantis, I think. I would expect some ways Joe Biden is probably going to announce his intention to run for 2024 as well in the next few weeks. So yeah, I struggle to see two good candidates at this stage for presidency. I mean, beyond as well. I mean, like many of the public are sort of not really interested in Joe Biden running again, but they're also not interested in Donald Trump again. So I don't know how the voting enthusiasm is going to be on next time round. But yeah, so I expect we're going to see a lot more activity in this part anyway within the next few weeks and the coming months as well as we get geared towards 2024, which is election year in America as well in November next year. So a lot still more to come on that.
Yeah, it's not that long ago. Remember what happened last time? I think we all explained what happened last time in the 2020 election, which we know exactly what happened. We're not going to go on to it in my show. But yeah, comment down below, guys, who you think the Republican candidates could be. There probably will be a debate again, I reckon, of some sort for that candidate.
Oh yeah, there will be.
I bet that will be pretty heated. Remember what happened a few years ago when the last one happened? Donald Trump. It was Donald Trump, a few others as well, Ted Cruz was in it. Oh, so many options. Yeah, all I can say is that we'll keep you updated on that. Moving on now to the final part of the hot headlines now. I'm going to be talking about Brexit now. Okay. So Rishi Sunak is going to announce something quite interesting next week. This is apparently some sort of agreement with the European Union. Now, this kind of, in a way, freaks me out here because I don't understand why he's doing this, given we were meant to leave. We essentially left the EU, but we've still got the European Court of Human Rights controlling our pretty horrendous border crossings. Now, probably could top 80,000 this year at least, I reckon, as well. But Rishi Sunak is apparently said to be have a crunch talks with the European Union. Zach, it's clear to me that Sunak is betraying Brexit here, isn't he?
Well, I don't really know. I don't really know about this. So what's happening at the moment is that the Northern Ireland Protocol is in the headlines again. Because there's been some positive noise out of the UK side, there's been some positive noise out the European side. That there might be an agreement to improve the Northern Ireland Protocol and improve the aspects of it as well in the deal, which obviously is important because, as you probably may or may not be aware, Stormont in Northern Ireland is not running at the moment because of a dispute over the Northern Ireland Protocol. The DUP have refused to go into governments with Sinn Féin over this protocol. And to obviously run in Stormont, you need cross-community support. You need unionists and nationalists to govern together to be able to at least get, at least have a functioning government in Northern Ireland. The DUP don't have the support at the moment. The DUP don't support at the moment running Stormont. So Stormont has not been running for a long time since the elections. And it's because of protests to this Northern Ireland Protocol. They've been in protest for this a long while. They've held, Stormont hostage in many ways. But it looks like from talks that there is progress. A deal is inching very closer as well, which is good. And it's a good sign, I think, as well, because these issues need to be resolved for governments to function in Northern Ireland and for the protocol to be improved. Sinn Féin was making good noises when they spoke. The DUP even were making good noises when they spoke as well. They say they still want more negotiation on a few issues. Rishi Sunak was sort of playing that down today when he was spoken at the Munich Security Conference. But from what sources have been saying, that it looks like there is a deal soon. Now, if there is a deal, that's good. But the question is, will the DUP support that deal? If not, then there's going to be political meltdown as well from that as well. Well, the other thing to keep an eye on is the ERG, the European Research Group of MPs. That's still around. Will they support it as well if they don't feel like it's good enough? I mean, some of them go saying that there should be no EU law in Northern Ireland at all. But I expect, from what I've been reading, is that there may be Northern Ireland courts will probably determine most of it. There may still be a role for the EU courts in terms of resolving disputes. There may well be sort of green lanes and red lanes for sort of transport, like items and products, environmental things to sort of go through as well in terms of checking of goods. So yeah, the good news is there appears to be good signs at the moment. Now, a deal is not betraying Brexit. Brexit is still has happened. It doesn't matter. Brexit is Brexit, no matter what form it is. But at the end of the day, this deal is needed. There needs to be something that happens on Northern Ireland protocols. Otherwise, Stormont is going to run. And it needs to impress the DUP as well, which I don't think they're going to be impressed either way. They're going to snipe on the sidelines, no matter acting like old dinosaurs and moan about it, whatever it is. But will they use their hardline tactics for forcing the deal, keeping Stormont closed until another deal is improved? Well, I don't know. Let's see. But there is some good signs that a deal looks to be close so far, and hopefully it's reached very soon.
It's going to be very interesting to see how that gets on. I'm sure there'll be plenty of news in the press about that. Moving on now to the sport briefing. We're going to go over the sports news a bit earlier today. There's a lot of it to talk about. We're going to go through the latest news from the footy results today, which has seen a couple of interesting results and a couple of shockers. Let's have a look exactly what happened. In the earlier match, Arsenal came from behind to beat Aston Villa 4-2. Brentford and Crystal Palace drew 1-1. Bournemouth beat Wolves 1-0. Fulham beat Brighton 1-0. Everton beat Leeds 1-0 to continue a pretty strong run for Sean Dyche. The big shock, though, was Southampton beating a struggling Chelsea. Graham Potter is probably now under the chopping block with a 1-0 loss. Nottingham Forest held Manchester City to a 1-1 draw, and Liverpool beat Newcastle 2-0. Zach, what do you make to the latest Premier League results?
Yeah, some interesting result, I have to say, Charlie, as well. Let's start with Aston Villa Arsenal. And actually, let's start off the first one before that. Arsenal Man City midweek. Let's just talk about the context about this, because in midweek, Man City beat Arsenal 3-1. Man City went to the top of the table on goal difference. That was pretty crucial as well, because that means they were tied, but on goal difference, Man City was ahead. Now, today, the tables are turned again. Arsenal were 2-2 just before in the 90th minute. And then, that was it could have been another draw for them, which could have been very costly in terms of the title race. And then in the 90th, 93rd minute and 98th minute, an own goal from the goalkeeper, Emilio Martinez, a very unlucky own goal, I have to say. And then another goal from Gabriel Martini meant that Arsenal won 4-2 against Aston Villa in an absolute thrilling match, I have to say. Probably the best match of the day. For me, in terms of watching it as well. Great match overall. 4-2 for Arsenal. Big victory for them in terms of the title race. Number 3 points after a bit of a poor run of results. Really as well. So big one for Arsenal there. Brentford drew 1-1 against Palace. Not really much to say about that one. It was Crystal Palace was winning 1-0 actually. Easy in the 69 minutes. And then 96 minute, Vitaly Janelt scored for Brentford and clawed back a result for them as well. It's a big result for them. Wolves lost against Bournemouth. Bournemouth is a big win for them, actually. Marcus Tavernier in the 49th minute as well means that Bournemouth now go out to the bottom 3 for the first time in a while. Brighton lost 1-0 against Fulham. Bit of a disappointing result for Brighton, but it doesn't really affect them in terms of their form. They're still in 7th position. It will be a good result, still a good run of results for them. Now just being let down by a loss to Fulham. Fulham now in 6th position. Now only 1 point behind Spurs, I should say as well, which that's a crucial result for them. In terms of getting European positions. Everton, good. Sean Dyche, this is his 3rd game in charge. He's won 2 of them, lost to Liverpool last time, but now beat Leeds. And now he's 16th position. Still only 1 point from the bottom 3, but now out of that bottom 3, most importantly as well. He's now in 16th, ahead of Bournemouth as well, and a crucial win over Leeds as well, who's still, in many ways as well, looking for a manager. After Jesse Marsch sacking as well. It's a big win for Everton in that part as well. Chelsea's dismal run continues, losing to Southampton after James Ward-Prowse scored in the 46th minute. Chelsea now stuck in 10th position. Only loss as well. Only 1 win in the last 5 games as well. Very poor run for Chelsea continues, I'm afraid, as well. Questions for Graham Potter in terms of strategy and everything like that as well in the near future as well. It's a very poor run of form. I think also another huge result in the context of the title race. Nottingham Forest holding Man City to a draw. Chris Wood with a score in 84th minute. It was Bernardo Silva in the 41st minute. But what that means in terms of the title race is now City now 2 points behind Arsenal in the title race. That's a crucial result and a poor result for City. Can't be drawing results like that. And then another result, Newcastle also on a sluggish form, but losing 2-0 today to Chelsea. Nick Pope there is going to be missing the Carabao Cup final next week as well after being red carded in the 22nd minute. after a handball outside of his box. Not surprising, really. It was a blatant red card. It was Darwin Núñez who scored, who could be missing though for the Champions League match after it looks like he picked up an injury, and Cody Gakpo as well in the 17th minute scored as well. Yeah, it was not a great match for Newcastle. Again, only one win in the last 5 for Newcastle as well. Bit on a slow form at the moment as well. But tomorrow is 2 more crucial fixtures. Manchester United on flying form from them. They take on a Leicester City that kind of rebounded in the last few matches. Whether they continue that is another thing. And then also the big game tomorrow as well, Tottenham against West Ham. That'll be a pretty tasty time as well in that race as well. And there's a few Champions League matches as well. Liverpool take on Real Madrid on Tuesday. RB Leipzig against Man City on the Wednesday. And the second leg of Man United against Barcelona on the Europa League on the Thursday as well. And it all kicks off again next week with Fulham v Wolves on the Friday. And a few other fixtures as well.
Plenty of that football news will be back on next week. Time now for a chat about the Formula One car launches ahead of the new season, which starts 2 weeks tomorrow, would you believe it? I think March the 6th, we go racing in Abu Dhabi for the first race. Not Abu Dhabi, Bahrain. That's the last race. What am I saying? The last race is Abu Dhabi. Bahrain is the first race of the season. Yes, we've seen lots of launches this week. I've questioned a couple of the launches, particularly one of them regarding AlphaTauri's launch of a car that looks fairly identical to an Alfa Romeo with an all-in sponsorship on it. But we're going to go through the car launches now. If all the listeners are watching this show, you will be able to see exactly what we're on about. Here are the 2023 Formula One cars in person on the screen right now for you. These are the 3 up here. We're going to rate them as well. You've got Aston Martin, Haas and McLaren all up there. We've got the Haas VF22, the Aston Martin AMR22 and the McLaren MCL36. These are the first 3 cars on the list up there. We then also have Red Bull with the RB18 as well.
Same old thing.
And there's plenty of others as well. Mercedes have also unveiled their brand new W14 Challenger with a black livery. Ferrari have revealed the SF23 with an interesting front wing. And Alpine also unveiled their car the other day as well. So there's been plenty of car launches this week, hasn't there, for Formula One ahead of the new season?
Yeah, there has been plenty of car launches as well. In terms of, let's just rate the worst and the best, I think. Obviously, we've seen Red Bull launch theirs earlier as well a few weeks ago. I didn't really like theirs because it's just the same old. AlphaTauri launched a bit of a new livery as well. They've gone for a slightly changed one. They've swapped the colours around. So rather than the blue on the front and then the white on the back and the grey and everything like that, they've swapped it around so that white is at the front and blue's at the back now. Interesting enough, it's interesting, different livery there. That's all right, I have to say. It looks all right. I suppose it looks a completely different car, but it looks good, I suppose, in many ways. Haas has also gone for a different livery as well. They've got a new sponsor, MoneyGram. It's a white, black, and red. I like it. I like it. Williams have launched Golf. Have launched the same livery as well, but with a new sponsor, Golf. You may remember them from all those years ago. I must admit, it's the same old livery for them as well, but it's okay. Alfa Romeo have sort of launched a changed livery as well. They've gone for very much more of a red look as well, and a bit of black on the sides. A lot of cars are using black this year, I have to say, as well. There's the AlphaTauri livery, I have to say, as well. McLaren have gone for something similar. They've gone mainly orange, but they've got a bit more blue as well on the sides, a bit of black as well. Alpine, as I said, they're running a pink livery, by the way, for the first few races, for the first 3 races, and then they're doing a more blue livery from after Melbourne. That I think it's from Azerbaijan onwards. They're going to launch doing a bit more of a blue and pink as well. Mercedes have launched an all black livery this season. They've gone back to the black livery as before. Previously, last year it was white, now it's gone back to black again. A few bit more green around the sides as well, but yeah, they've gone to the black livery as well. I like the black livery, to be fair. It's all right, actually. As well, Aston Martin launched the same old livery with them. It's a green livery as well. And then Ferrari have launched a similar one with a bit more black on the side and less more towards the side pod, less towards like the sort of wingy end of the car. But yeah, it's okay as well. But yes, testing is back on Thursday, by the way, at Bahrain. It'll be done for 3 days. There'll be 2 sessions, a morning session and an afternoon session. The morning session is 4 hours, the afternoon session 4.5 hours. It's cost through 3 days. And it goes from Thursday to Saturday, and then the following after that, it's the first race in Bahrain as well, which means it's only 2 weeks away before Formula One returns in its actual racing, which is really exciting. I'm really looking forward to it as well. It's more of an evolution from last season than the revolution, but yeah, it should all be great as well. We'll be able to see who made the improvements, who've not, who's gone backwards, who's gone forwards as well. But yeah, it's coming. It's Formula One is only 2 weeks away, and testing is only only a couple of days away as well.
Testing is only a couple of weeks away, but so is tomorrow with the launch of the Daytona 500. Would you believe it? Tomorrow we start off the NASCAR season. We're going to get the grid up for you now, guys, because the Cup Series is back this weekend for the first round. Last year, of course, what was actually quite a shock win, really, I have to say, for Austin Cindric, winning that race last year, and a pretty chaotic finish. But on the pole position tomorrow, we're going to have Alex Bowman in number 48 Chevrolet. Kyle Larson will start second. By the way, Kyle Larson is the 2021 champion. He will be starting second. Joey Logano, the reigning champion, will be third. Eric Almirola is fourth. Christopher Bell is fifth. Then last year's winner, Austin Cindric, sixth from the grid. Ryan Blaney will be seventh. Chase Elliott will be eighth 2020 champion, along with Chris Buescher, ninth in the number 17 Ford. Brad Keselowski will round out the top 10 in the number 6 Ford Mustang. Meanwhile, if your name is Carl Busch, your name is certainly, just checking here, not exactly
Going to the rear.
He's not exactly in the best of positions to start this weekend in that new car that he's driving.
Yeah, now he crashed out, so he's going to the rear in the backup car. Yeah, I think it was in the I can't remember if it was in practice or something, but it might have been in the duels actually as well. Actually, to be fair, the grid is set by the I think it's third and fourth downwards. The grid is set by the duels, not by qualifying. There is a qualifying, and then for the duels, and then you race your way in via the duels as well. I should say in this instance as well. But yeah, Alex Bowman and Kyle Larson, as long as they didn't wreck their cars, it didn't matter because they will start first and second regardless of their duel results. They would be on the pole because they were finished the top 2. And then Joey Logano will be third because he won Duel 1. Eric Almirola will be fourth because he won Duel 2. And then Christopher Bell will be fifth because he was second in Duel 1. Austin Cindric was also second in Duel 2. Ryan Blaney was third in Duel 3, so he will be starting seventh. Third, or Chase Elliott in Duel 2 as well, so you get my point as well. And then behind him will be Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski in 10th, Michael McDowell 11th, 12th, Corey LaJoyce, 13th, Kevin Hart, 14th, Todd Gilliam, Bob Wallace 15th, Trek 16th, Zane Smith 17th, Denny Hamlin 18th, Harrison Burton 19th, and Ryan Preece in 20. Harrison Burton 19th, Ryan Preece in 20th position as well. That's the top 20 as well. Going on there. The Craftsman Truck Series race was last night. I should point out it was rain shortened. It still says Camping World Truck Series, but it's the Craftsman Truck Series, I should point out as well. It was rained out after 80 laps as well because of rain, but it was Zane Smith that was managed to run ahead. By the way, on before the race was stopped, he was ahead of Tanner Gray in second position. As well, Christopher Eccles in third, as well. Colby Howard was fourth position. Grant Enfinger was fifth. Time Getty sixth as well. Tyler Ankering was seventh in that race as well. It was Corey Heim was eighth position in that race. It was before the red flag. Matt Crafton was ninth, and Chase Elliott was in 10th position as well. Obviously, Chase Elliott doesn't get any points because he's a full-time driver in the Cup Series, so he's not eligible for points. But yeah, it was Zane Smith that won that race after it was rained out. as well. There was a few wrecks in there now and then, but yeah, big first win of the season for Zane Smith as well. The Xfinity Series races tonight. It's the Beef at What's It for Dinner 300. That'll be on from 10 p.m. UK time. Austin Hill was on the pole for that one. Parker Gilliman will be second. Cole Custer third as well. Sheldon Creed will be starting from fourth position for the race. Justin Allgaier fifth. Daniel Henry sixth. Joe Nemechek seventh as well. I think it's Christmas Smith from eighth position as well for that one. As well, Ryan Hurstbeat as well. Alpha O'Dowd actually ninth, and Alpha O'Dowd in 10th position as well. So yeah, that's the grid for the Xfinity race as well. And obviously the Daytona 500 tomorrow, the big race as well. And then next week they're going to go to California for the Auto Club 400. That'll be the second race as well for the Cup Series and for the Xfinity Series as well. The Camping World Truck Series, I believe, will have the week off as well. And then we'll be resuming their next race at Las Vegas in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, be plenty of racing. We'll keep you updated with all that news. Still a lot to get through on this show, so we'll keep you updated on that. Time now for a look back in history. This week's musical theme is going to be Ed Sheeran. Yes, now, guys, Ed Sheeran is one of the biggest British pop artists. Besides Craig David, who, by the way, I have literally been listening to all these music this week, including 7 Days of Walking Away. I've been literally having that on stream, but literally throughout the whole week. But yes, Ed Sheeran is an artist who actually is very, very synonymous. As well, he was born in 1991, just 32 years old. He began playing songs around the age of 11. Early 2011, he released the extended play number 5 collaborations project. He was also signed with Asylum Records that year. His debut album was pronounced Plus, was released in 2011, top British album charts. His first single was actually The A-Team. Yes, I remember that song very, very well, in fact, as well. But obviously, Ed Sheeran will be remembered, of course, for his album X, which was actually pronounced Multiply. It was released in 2014, won Album of the Year at the Brit Awards in 2015, including obviously the songs, as you would have known, Sing, Thinking Out Loud, as well. Actually, that was 2016. Actually, was X, Multiply X there, featured the song Thinking Out Loud, which won the best song of the year, best pop solo. And then, of course, the third album, Divide, which we all know, featured Shape of You, Castle on the Hill, and also as well, Supermarket Flowers. Plenty of songs on that album that we all remember. Zach, Ed Sheeran certainly in the pop music world by a lot of people, certainly many people's favourite artist, I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably one of the biggest UK artists around as well. Album after album, his fan base is there, whatever he releases. And, you know, he started out back in it started out back in 2004. And he released his first collection work. He titled it Spinning Man as well. I didn't hear much out of that then. But then he started to make a little bit more music as well. He was friends at the time with the late great Jamal Edwards. You know, he was a British entrepreneur at the time, and you know he as well. He also got to know lots of artists like Example, Just Jack as well, and he also partnered with Ledger Chapman as well. So you know, and then he released a big single, The A-Team. As well, that became synonymous with his first single as well. It was a huge release for a solo artist. It went to number 3 in the charts, selling 58,000 copies in the first week. It was his best-selling debut single and the 8th best-selling single of 2011. 801,000 copies of the year as well, and became top 10 hits across many countries, including Australia, Germany, Ireland, Japan, New Zealand, as well. And then he released probably one of his favorite songs as well, "You Need I Don't Need You," as well. It peaked at number 4, and then he released "Lego House" as well, another very famous sort of acoustic single as well. and it featured Rupert Grint in his music video as well. And he just released, and there was all his singles was top 10 as well. And he managed to release his debut album Plus on the 12th of September. And it achieved 102,000 copies as well. And it debuted at number 1. It was such a big hit on the album charts in many ways as well. And he co-wrote lots of other songs as well. Then he started in 2014, went on to sell X. And he had a very famous song called Sing. I still remember that one very well. It featured Pharrell Williams in the video, and it featured himself as a puppet. In many ways, spewing up. I know that meme still goes around quite a bit as well. And then he then released a massive single, Thinking Out Loud, as well. That was huge. It's used as so many wedding songs now. These
2016 Grammy Award winner as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we start winning so much music awards after that. And then came Plus, Divide, sorry. It took off after he released the album Shape of You, Castle on the Hill, as well. It was big singles as well. Absolutely big, massive ones. And honestly, it was incredible, that ones as well. And then it's just incredible, some of the collaboration. I remember as well Galloway Girl on that album. That was huge.
Yeah, go away, go.
That was such a brilliant tune. And then he sort of did these sort of like, weird collaboration projects. He did one with Justin Bieber as well. He did Call Cross Me, Beautiful People as well, and then a few others as well. And it was just brilliant. He was experiencing sound. And then came recently Equals, which included stuff like like Joke and the Queen as well, and Bad Habits.
Yeah, Overpass Graffiti. We can name quite a few of them.
Overpass Graffiti. It's just so many of them as well. But yeah, he's like one of the biggest names in UK music, and he's still thriving this day. And I imagine whatever album that he releases next is going to be huge and break more records.
Yeah, Ed Sheeran is one of those artists that can provide entertainment. And this video here explains how Ed Sheeran's guitarist, he's actually a guitarist himself, Ed Sheeran. And this is a video of him appearing on a chat show where he attempts to play any song in 4 chords. Have a listen to this.
Right now over 4 chords. Are you serious? I'm serious. Do you want me to dance? Yeah. Get me a guitar. Are you serious? You name any song and I'll play it in 4 chords. So these are the chords. Let's go. Something passenger. Your friend. Cause you only need the light when it's burning low. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let her go.
But you can
Name another song.
I'm walking away, Craig David.
Craig David. I'm walking away from the troubles in my life. I'm walking away. Oh, to find a better day. One last one. Let it be. Beatles. When I find myself in time of trouble, other man. I'm telling you. Any song.
There we go. That was Ed Sheeran there playing songs in 4 chords. Literally, I have to say, Zach, like, that's something, isn't it? I mean, to play obviously a song that we talked about on an artist the other week, Walking Away, one of Craig David's most famous songs. It's like Ed Sheeran covering that with them chords. That's been pretty hard work to do that, I'd have thought.
He could do anything. He's a man that could do anything as well. I mean, you don't hear him like on big like dance tunes or anything like that, but anything like pop wise, he can do. He can cover any song, and he could just play it with his guitar and just do it geniusly. It's absolutely sensational what he does. It's brilliant, and no wonder why he's a talented artist. He's a good songwriter. He's got so much talent in his singing and everything like that, and it's just brilliant in many ways as well. It's just so amazing, and no wonder why he's such a popular artist. He's got a good personality, just pure talent, pure singing. None of this, nonsense about being relevant in many ways as well. Just pure out of his heart, writes out his, songs, and yeah, absolutely brilliant and an outstanding UK talent.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be back winning many more awards, I'm sure, in the future. Life has only just begun for Ed Sheeran in terms of his musical career. Moving on now to Charlie's good news. An update on the Apprentice UK task. Again, what I watched it just before we went on air, so I can tell you all about it. What a mess in this lunchbox app style task. Solihull becomes the next candidate to be fired by Lord Alan Sugar, when in fact I have all of the feedback from what they have said. It was pretty huge. Team Infinite went with Solihull. Team Apex chose Danny as the project manager. Infinite went with the name Platinum Pirate Adventures. Doesn't scream platinum to me. And Apex went with, I think, Munch Lunch or something. Munch Lunch, whatever that was called, with Larry the Caterpillar as the headline there on the app. The feedback they got, Apex apparently had that it was a bit too young for a target audience of 6 to 8 year olds. And they one of the children said it was a bit cringy, and then the other one, Infinite, it was just like they were obviously walking the plank, and the treasure chest was a bit brown and just had a bit of like the app was a bit didn't have a conclusion. Zach, I have to say, very interesting task for both teams, I have to say, for this latest one.
Yeah, the lunchbox creation and the app alongside it as well. That was the task this week. That was given as well. Yeah, I have to say the complete failure by Affinity on their tasks, no orders at all at the end, was absolutely howling in terms of the fact they got 0 orders because it was just such a crap product that created. Well, the pitch was bad, the actual product itself was dreadful, the app itself was useless, there was nothing exciting about it, the voiceover was bad, the character was just really, really bad. Solihull led an absolute disaster pitch as well. It was Finity this time suggesting a pirate treasure chest for their lunchbox. I must admit, the pirate treasure chest made no sense whatsoever as well. It really wasn't really appealing. The caterpillar was much more appealing. I must agree, it was a little bit youngish, but it felt like they were onto something, at least with the caterpillar, I must say, as well, for Apex, in many ways as well. I mean, but yeah, the pirate thing, the voiceover was just dreadful. No wonder why they didn't get all the orders. The pitch was dreadful, saying this is a prototype. Well, you want to see what the final product is rather than a bloody prototype. That's not going to sell people how to get a product. If I'm going to say, well, this is just a prototype, this is a prototype, just show us what you got. Why don't you develop it before you actually,
I know who said that. Yeah, Bradley was mentioning it. Bradley made an absolute mess of that pitch. I thought it was absolutely dreadful.
Oh, he absolutely made a tit himself in that task. It was awful. Really, to be fair as well, I have to say it was such a bad one as well. Bradley pitch was poor. Marina was just disrupted throughout, interrupting, and she doesn't help as well. But Lord Sugar decided that it was Solihull that was responsible for the total mess of the task and the actual overall product. So he got the boot, and he's been the next one to be fired from the episode as well. So, and to be fair, Charlie, I'm not really surprised at all. Who would have wanted to project manage that? It was bloody dreadful, I have to say. As well, it was really bad in many instances as well. Yeah, it was pretty awful as well. But next week, as on next week's episode, the candidates will be asked to host immersive events in Shropshire. They must sell tickets, book entertainment, and organise food and drink. And then the team that produces the biggest overall profit will win. As well, and at least one of them will get fired next week. I can see this going totally toozle up as well, because organising events is a big thing. You have to organise lots of different things. And if you're not a very competent candidate at all, and you scrap the events organisation, it can go all absolutely dreadfully wrong as well. I imagine for one team it will, because at least one of them is going to be fired as well. And yeah, so that is next week's task as well.
Yeah, I can confirm though that in the units that were sold, Apex actually was sent products on trial. They got 1,500 orders in total. The other team got nothing. So that's what I was told. That's what was told by Karen and Tim during the candidates briefed in the boardroom. So yeah, clearly not ideal for the candidates. But The Apprentice UK returns next Thursday on BBC One, I think, or BBC One or BBC Two at 9 o'clock. So keep an eye on that. If you are. Now it's time for press preview. We're going to go through all the latest newspaper headlines now. There's plenty of them, as you would have known. Let's go over them. In some news today, it has been reported in the Telegraph that former Prime Minister Boris Johnson has warned Rishi Sunak on a Northern Ireland deal. Former Prime Minister says it will be abandonising protocol bill be a great mistake, according to that. The Independent goes, the sick children left to suffer as care for the NHS. I can't believe this. It's absolutely ridiculous. More than 350,000 people needing urgent operations. Girl 6 has a brain surgery cancelled over a staff shortage. Stop the strikes. God, goodness me. Isn't this country in such a woke place at the moment without news? Clearly. The Observer goes with former Prime Minister Johnson threatens Sunak's bid to end the deadlock over Brexit. Sunday, the Express goes, forces too broken to defend the UK. General warns Chancellor the Ministry of Defence urgently needs £3 billion to fight in bit. Is that helping enough towards Putin's advance in Ukraine, I wonder? And in the Daily Star, Britain's bosses can't get a job because of their extraterrestrials. To be honest with you, I'm actually looking for a job myself at the moment, and I'm finding it very challenging indeed. So I hope that Daily Star newspaper gives me an idea. Zach, what do you make today's newspaper headlines?
They complain about the immigrants, but maybe aliens will be next one to take our jobs. Who knows? Let's go through them. The Sunday Telegraph. This is an intervention by Boris Johnson. Another one by Boris Johnson. Another intervention by him. As well. So let's just look at this in a bit of detail as well. He's warned today that Rishi Sunak that ditching the Northern Ireland Protocol bill in favour of a new Brexit deal would be what he calls a great mistake. He said that he urged his successor not to tear up the legislation for the Northern Ireland Protocol bill, which is seen by Brexit as the most important bargaining chip with the European Union as well. Sources say that close to Boris saying his general thinking is that it would be a great mistake to drop the bill. As well, it allows the government to rip up the protocol, which include the end of the role of the ECJ on the Northern Ireland on the protocol, as well. Now, Rishi Sunak's thinking a bit about this at the moment is that if he wants a deal, if he's going to get a deal, he'll then scrap the bill as well with it. It's either going to be the bill or the deal. He's looking for the deal rather than the bill at the moment. But yeah, this is just, in many ways, this is the problem that Rishi Sunak is facing, because he's going to have pressure from the DUP, but also like hardline Brexiteers as well, such as like Johnson and the ERG. I mean, we had David Jones the other day who put out on social media saying that there should be, in his words, no EU law jurisdicting the protocol at all. So this is going to be a difficult one, I think, to sell to hardline Brexiteers and the European, the DUP as well. This is going to be a very difficult deal for Sunak to win over, but he'll win a bit of political capital if he does. Now, even if the ERG and the DUP don't support it, Labour can vote it through. And actually, what Labour's position is on this is that they will support the government if they get a deal, just so they can lend them some votes and get the deal over the line. So Sunak is in a politically good position, actually, for now, if Labour votes for it. But he also needs credibility on the backbenches, like the ERG and the DUP, if he doesn't get a deal that suits their tests in any ways as well. So it's an important one in that instance as well. In that instance as well. Now let's go on to the Independent. They've gone on with this very disturbing exclusive report that more than 350 sick children are in need of urgent operations. And it was also about experiences from the fact that a girl that was aged 6 years old, and this is really, really disturbing, heartbreaking, had her brain surgery cancelled because there was a staff shortage in the NHS. It's just absolutely appalling how it got to that point where he needed his she needed her brain surgery cancelled, and these are crucial surgeries that these young children need, because otherwise they're going to grow up not really, getting to their potential if they're going to be medically unfit. As well, and it reveals that the backlog in young people as well has increased by 50% in 2 years. With over in December, 364,000 children were waiting for treatment for neurosurgery to ear, nose, and throat operations, and a further 200,000 needed community service such as speech and language therapy. That figure is up by 48% since April 2021, which was during the middle of COVID, by the way, as well. And the NHS waiting list for those for children, which grew by 36% over the same period as well. It is a heartbreaking and shocking case of the NHS unable to cope to give the care that needs to our children. It's just absolutely harrowing as well. In many ways, the Observer goes for Johnson threatens Sunak's bid to end deadlock over Brexit. Ex-PM will fight to keep Northern Ireland law. Starmer pledges to agree back New Zealand as well. That's the same as the sort of the Telegraph in this instance as well. Again, it's a difficult one for Sunak because you've got to prioritise which voices to go by. I suspect he may listen to those who are looking for compromise rather than just appeasing his Brexiteers as well. As well, I'm guessing the deal's close, but not there quite. Yeah, there, but as I said, hopefully it comes soon in many ways as well. That's the Observer. The Southern Express goes for forces too broken to defend UK. The armed forces need a £3 billion annual boost to keep their status as European leading military power at Germiston last night. So this, I believe, is I'm just checking the general on this. General Richard Byrons called for the Chancellor to sanction the funding to replace weapons and tanks given to UK and stop deliberately keeping defence broken as well. Now, if that's the general that's commenting on this, then this is a really serious matter. The defence budget has to go up in the next budget, I do think, as well, because clearly with the war in Ukraine that's going on still, and rising pressures from like China, Iran, North Korea as well. North Korea launched another ballistic missile, by the way, in the near to Japan as well. There needs to be a bigger focus on the defence budget and increasing that as well, and improving our military in many forms as well, because otherwise we're not going to have a military that's fit for the modern age, I don't think, as well, given the fact that with all the the sort of tenterhooks that we could have with other countries as well, in many ways as well. And the Daily Star, well, what can I say about this one? Can't get to work today as I've been abducted by aliens again. Those pesky aliens, apparently, according to the Daily Star, have a lot to answer for. Now ET's abducting staff and making them miss work. It's hidden productivity, say H-Boss, who report a sudden rise in extraterrestrial excuses. I wonder if those sort of balloons have been coming from China have sort of been mopping up people that we don't know about, and then they've been suddenly taken onto the balloon and been taken to space. Who knows what's happened? Like I said before, we complain about the immigrants that are taking all our jobs. Maybe it's about to become time the aliens take all the jobs as well. Britain bosses can't get job done because of extraterrestrials. Yeah, I mean, I kind of doubt that one, but I kind of am a little bit worried as well. We may have aliens taking our jobs in the future. That may be 100 years away, but still one to consider anyway if we get a zombie invasion or anything like that, or an alien invasion one day. Who knows?
Another alien invasion. That would be something that I would expect. Mate, does the Prime Minister think aliens are going to come and invade? I don't know. Maybe,
Yeah, I'm not
maybe,
sure that one.
maybe the sci-fis have come up and destroyed the universe. I'm not going to comment on that. It sounds Doctor Who-ish to me, so I'm not going to say anything
Yeah,
on that.
that's
But
papers.
really, the only other newspaper story I did want to talk about tonight is Rishi Sunak's message to, obviously, next week, as you guys know, it is going to be a year since the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Obviously, Putin's war in Ukraine. I think on Friday we're going to be marking a minute silence to remember, obviously, all the victims of this horrible war in Ukraine. I mean, Zach, 1 year on, thinking to myself that Vladimir Putin of Russia wanted to take Kiev within 24 to 48 hours. This is going to be 1 year on next week since that war started. For me, this has to be the biggest humiliation for a world leader in the history of peacetime. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt about it. It's been a year, nearly a year now since this bloody war started in Ukraine because of Russia aggression, and the falsehoods and the lies that they pushed about Ukraine and what they're going to do to Russia and other countries. And look what they've done to themselves. Really, to be fair, they made themselves to be a national, international pariah on the international stage. We've seen the resilience, the outstandingness, the bravery, the just brilliant uprising by the Ukrainian military, and with help with international allies as well. They've managed to defend most of their country. The situation in Donbass is a little bit difficult at the moment, but in the mainland, they managed to hold what they had. I mean, there's been thousands of lives lost, unfortunately, because Putin's been targeting civilians, infrastructures, power grids, water, energy, as well. We've enjoyed hardships here as well because our energy prices have gone up, our bills have gone up because of Putin's war in Ukraine. But we've sacrificed quite a lot. We've given lots of countries given us Ukraine weapons to defend themselves as well. No soldiers, NATO soldiers, no British soldiers have been forced into Ukraine, which is good as well. It's been Ukraine fighting with the help from us and many other countries as well. And the fact is they're still going to war a year on just shows the resilience of the Ukrainian army and everything like that. So, what we need to do in the future now is continue to give Ukraine weapons, military-wise, missiles, even hopefully in this future fighter jets if they can get all the fighters trained, everything like that. But realistically, Russia wasn't expected to be in this position a year ago. They expected to take Kyiv within 48 hours and then control the country from there onwards. But it hasn't happened, unfortunately. For Russia, it hasn't happened for them. The good news for all of us, actually, in many ways, is that Ukraine is still on the map and is more united than ever with other countries. It's just brilliant to see as well. Slava Ukraina to everyone in Ukraine, and Slava Ukraina to all the fighters it involved as well, because they've been the heroes of our times as well. And Zelensky's also been the heroes of our times as well. He's brave and great leadership as well in these sort of rounds. So yeah, a year old, you're going to remember a lot of things about it. But I expect one of the things we're going to know about it as well is Ukraine have been brilliant throughout this period as well.
It's absolutely magical. It's actually not magical. It's absolutely horrible to say things like what's happening in Ukraine. It's obviously what I was going to say was it's the resilience from the Ukrainian population is like a magical spirit has gone into the sky and shone a light on the world to say that we need you. We need you to have more weapons. We need you to believe in us, because Russia right now will be, in God's name only, they will be wanted for war crimes. I suspect there'll be a propaganda poster of a picture of the Russian president literally hanging behind bars saying wanted for war crimes. That would be my propaganda poster. It's a horrible thing, honestly. Please comment down below what you think to the war in Ukraine, and do you think the West needs to respond more against Russian aggression? Now it's time for the heroes and villains of the week. Now, I'm going to give a hero actually to Mariah Carey this week. This is a nomination that I've given to Mariah Carey. Quite an emotional one, actually. Actually, no, I'm getting one up from last year, actually. A source has just come up saying Mariah Carey actually performed with her daughter at a Christmas concert in Toronto. That's an old article.
Yeah, that's a bit while ago.
I thought I'd mention Mariah Carey because it was a first ever single that she performed with her daughter, and I thought it's actually very, very interesting. I thought I'd give a mention to that because that's actually like amazing. You know, like I want to see people like doing that. It's actually a really, really good initiative. Anyway, moving on to my actual Great British star this week, or my hero. It's going to be this person here, this family, Speedo Mick, who climbed this mountain. He climbed Waidaf. I think it's a Welsh name.
It's Welsh, yeah.
Yeah, Waidaf ascent. A boy climbing the equivalent Mount Everest to support dying children has been well known. Fundraisers got Wales Highest Peak. Oscar Burrow from Lancaster and his family racing Michael Cullen, known as Speedo Mike, up Wayafa, previously known as Mounts. Yes, why was it called? It's Mount Snowdon. It's not that name. God, wow. Who named it that? Crazy. The 6-year-old is in process climbing 12 peaks to Mount Everest, 29,000 feet. Mr. Cullen has raised more than £800,000. The 58-year-old said he's been made up. Oscar's father asked him if he could son join up. Speedo Mick is currently on his final fundraising walk, which we'll see walking from John O'Groats Land's End, taking on the UK's 3 highest peaks on the way, where Oscar is halfway through a 12-peak challenge. Blimey, honestly. This family will get a nomination. Speedo Mick will get a nomination for this week's heroes. 2 villains of the week for me. Number 1 goes to Sam Smith. Believe it or not, I'm going to have to comment on this because Sam Smith has been on the media this week, making lots of blunders about his pronouns, misgendering announcements, and then this outfit at the Brit Awards was way too OTT. Honestly, I mean, this outfit at the Brit Awards last week looked like he'd gone into some kind of sumo wrestling competition, if you ask me. Or that he had attempted to do an episode of Mr. Universe all those years ago. Sam Smith, if you know the artist, he produces songs like Money on My Mind, Stay With Me. Yeah. Is he going a bit woke now? I don't know. That's Sam Smith for you. Getting a nomination there for the villain of the week. And the other villain of the week is going to go to Solihull for the horrendous apprentice task failure. Honestly, I have to nominate that task this week. I have to nominate him because by far away, that is probably the worst management I have ever seen in the boardroom. Putting Marnie, who was effectively a brander, onto the designing team and then sticking her into the pitch when Avi said he was going to go in there and suggesting ideas. Solihull completely contradicted his team and said, you know what, I'm not going to be a great team player. I'm just going to stick to my guns, and ultimately got fired by Lord Sugar. Zach, what do you make to my nominations this week?
Yeah, interesting, I have to say as well. Sam Smith, I just have to laugh because I found the reaction so hilarious to this his uniform and everything like that. Yeah, it's a bit weird, but I just find it funny anyway. Right, let's get on to my heroes this week. My hero goes to Michael Jordan. And I'll tell you why I'm giving it to him. He celebrated his 60th birthday yesterday. And he made his celebrated 60th birthday by doing something really special. He made a £10 million donation to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And what the benefits of that is that he's donated $10 million to a charity to create an endowment and to provide the funds needed to make future wishes possible for kids with critical illnesses. As well. So that donation was, major one. He obviously used to be a former basketball player, but the fact that he supported a charity that, supports children with critical illnesses and everything like that is a big, is a really sweet gesture for him as well. And, it's just really what the good personality and humanity he has as well. And just 10 million out of his own fortune, massive amount, using that not just to sort of create wealth or anything like that, but give, support and, empowerment to young people to overcome illnesses and support them as well. It's just brilliant as well. So Michael Jordan is a hero for me this week, and the villains this week, the SNP as well. They are now in crisis, I think, after Nicola Sturgeon's resignation as well. They're not doing too well. I think they're on a little bit of a brink. This is their opportunity. This is now Labour's opportunity to shine now a little bit through and get stop cutting the right. But the SNP, I think, have exploded themselves now with Nicola Sturgeon's resignation, so they get the village to move for this week as well.
I have to say on that one, Michael Jordan certainly will be looking at a lot of people. Will he invest his money in buying new Air Jordan 1 trainers? Like the Air Jordan lows, the Air Jordan mids. We know a lot of people have been talking about that trainer rise in Nike's and Nike sort of partnership with him as well. But I have to say, Zach, I agree. I think Nicola Sturgeon has been a complete failure for Scotland over the last, I think it's 18 years she's been in power or something. Like not just with her being in First Minister, but also with Alex Salmond as Deputy First Minister. This is going to be a clear message to Labour. I think this could well put Keir Starmer in number 10, even though Labour did lose a by-election the other week when I read up as well. We're going to be.
That was a council by-election, wasn't it? Wasn't it? It was a very small council by-election. I think, if I remember rightly, it was in Wales. I think it wasn't really that big of a loss for Labour in many ways as well. But yeah, I wouldn't read too much into that anyway. It's one council by-elections. In fact, Lib Dems actually took a few from the Tories on Thursday as well. So yeah, I wouldn't read too much into that anyway.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of that to talk about. And next week we have big news that we will all be rounding up. So join us again next week, guys, on the Charlie Tolhurst show for around the same time to round up all the latest political news. And also keep an eye out on all things Scotland with the return of the SNP elections. Or could there be an election in Scotland overall? We don't know yet. We'll let you know.
Who knows?
In due course, pending Nicola Sturgeon's resignation as First Minister. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Take care and enjoy the rest of your Saturday night. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Good night.